Brock Boeser is unlikely to return to the Canucks next season. And here are some of the quotes from the article. So let's go through it right now from courtesy of Ian McIntyre at Sportsnet. He was asked Brock Boeser about the season in general. And Brock Boeser said, "It hurts. We wanted to be in the playoffs again so bad. If you get in, you never know what can happen. We were playing some good hockey when we had everyone in the lineup, and then we ran into more injury problems. We had the distractions this year and injuries throughout the lineup all year. It's been a rough year, but there's no excuses. We didn't win hockey games like we were supposed to." And look, Brock Boeser, one thing I got to say to that is Brock Boeser, again, he had the chemistry with JT Miller. Obviously, he took a step back, but it has been a trying season for Brock Boeser because he got up to that pretty hot start in October. He gets laid out by Tanner Jeannot on a dirty hit, misses some time, and then he was just kind of slow coming back from that. And by the time he came back, that's when the distractions with JT Miller and Elias Pettersson really hit the apex there. But again, it's just been such an inconsistent season for Brock Boeser. And even after the JT Miller trade, of course, Brock Boeser, he had that chemistry with JT for so long. And after JT Miller was traded, Brock Boeser was a ghost. I mentioned it here on the show, but in 15 games following the JT Miller trade, Brock Boeser had 1 point at even strength. I mean, you want to talk about this team missing the playoffs. There's a ton of reasons for it. But one of the big ones to me is following that JT Miller trade, which was supposed to alleviate the room and make everything better. Brock Boeser and Elias Pettersson turned into ghosts for 15 games. Those were supposed to be the top two offensive players on this team. The guys that were supposed to lead the way. And they were invisible for most of February and a good chunk of March before finally heating up like, oh shit, we're about to miss the playoffs. We better turn it on. And again, that's a big reason why, to me, this team missed the playoffs. And look, here's what Brock Boeser said in terms of not returning to the Vancouver Canucks. So according to Ian McIntyre in this article, Boeser said, quote, "Honestly, it's unlikely at this point that he returns. It sucks. It's unfortunate. I'm just trying to play good hockey. Then I'll worry about everything after that. We all know it's been a roller coaster of a year, and there's been a lot of different things." And Boeser goes on to say that he's refusing to talk to his agent right now until the end of the season. He says, "I'm refusing to talk to Ben Hankinson right now. I feel like I'm playing a lot better hockey recently, and I don't want to get distracted. That's one of the things I've learned. When there's distractions, I don't play my best hockey. The mental aspect of the game is so important, and this year, there have been a lot of distractions." So again, Brock Boeser, unlikely to return to the Canucks next season, and I think that's what we've been saying here on Locked On Canucks for quite some time. And I kind of power ranked it earlier this week on the episode with Patrick Johnson when we talked about what the hell happened to the Vancouver Canucks this season. But Brock, when we power ranked the free agents in terms of who's likely to return, I had it as Pius Suter, Derek Forbort, and Brock Boeser. And the writing's kind of been on the wall for some time now. The comments from Patrick Allvin and Jim Rutherford about Brock Boeser in terms of we're still evaluating the player and, just that constant rhetoric. It's like, what are you talking about? This is now the longest tenured Vancouver Canuck on the team. And yeah, I know you guys have only been here for 3.5 seasons, but what can you possibly gather from evaluating this player more? You're trying to see if that 40-goal season was a fluke or not? Well, I'll tell you what, 40 goals might have been a fluke, but Brock Boeser has been on pace for 30 goals per season throughout his NHL career. Of course, injuries and circumstances prevented him from getting to 30 goals until last year, but he has been about a 30-goal, 60-point player through his entire NHL career, which is now 8 seasons long, I believe. What more could you gather from evaluating Brock Boeser? It was a facade. We all knew it. Canuck fans are smart people. We're not idiots. You could see the writing on the wall that Brock Boeser wasn't going to return. Now, with that being said, and we said it after the trade deadline as well, when Canucks management lied to their fans. Who knows what the exact return was for Brock Boeser at the trade deadline? What was being offered? I find it hard to believe that, when Allvin says, "Oh, you wouldn't believe the offers I got for Brock Boeser." you'd have to think it'd at least be something like the Brad Marchand deal, like a conditional second-round pick that could become a first. That seems kind of like the floor for a player like Brock Boeser. And based on the fact that this Canucks team was not going to win the Stanley Cup this season, this is starting to feel a little bit like Dan Hamhuis and Radim Vrbata from the trade deadline in 2016, where they should have sold those players. They didn't. Those players walked in free agency, and they didn't get anything for them. And look, when you're a team, whether you're in the mushy middle or you're down the bottom of the standings, you gotta sell your free agents and build for the future. I mean, there's an argument that you want to keep Quinn Hughes happy. You want to make the playoffs. And look, Brock Boeser, like you said, he's been better over the last month, but he said it himself. He's a guy that hasn't handled distractions well. And sometimes when the pressure's been turned up for whatever reason, Brock Boeser just hasn't been the same guy. And it's a complicated story arc with Brock Boeser too, because of course there's pressure in the Stanley Cup playoffs, and he was excellent in the playoffs last season. But often throughout his Canucks career, he has dipped at the wrong time. And look, I think this season, to me, one of the most telling things was following the JT Miller trade and up until the trade deadline, when the Canucks needed Brock Boeser to step up and be a play driver, be an offensive force. He turned into an absolute ghost. He wasn't just a borderline top 6 guy. He was one of the worst guys on this team for about a month of hockey there. Again, this is a guy who led the team in goals last season. It was really disappointing to see. And look, it's not a surprise, but I think management's got to wear this on their face right now. Let's not beat around the bush. They should have traded Brock Boeser at the deadline. We all know it. Pushing for the playoffs. There's an argument you got to keep Quinn Hughes happy, but you got to look towards the future. It can't just be about keeping one player happy. You got to look towards the future. This Canucks team was not winning the Stanley Cup this season. And man, oh man, we'll get into this maybe on another episode, but we've talked about it before on Locked On Canucks. Every day, as you guys know, are we seeing the end of the Boeser and Pettersson era in Vancouver? It's crazy enough that JT Miller got dealt, but this team conceivably could see Brock Boeser and Elias Pettersson go out the door this season, or this offseason, I should say. I'm not saying that's the worst thing for this team. I think, cap space is valuable. You can find players like Boeser, not say it's easy, but you can find players potentially with better speed, younger with scoring potential. And do you really want to commit to a guy who's 28, who's not the fastest guy in the world, who's had inconsistencies? I like Brock Boeser as a player, but with Brock Boeser on this team, again, the longest tenured Canuck, and again, this team has missed the playoffs in 8 of the last 10 seasons. Maybe 6 of the last 8 seasons if you look at the Vancouver Canucks. Brock Boeser unlikely to return to the Vancouver Canucks, according to Ian McIntyre.